These days, very few people really know about, much less observe, the feast day of St. Martin on the 11th of November, which we call Martinmas. But for the Irish of the past few centuries, it was a very important day to honor one of their best loved saints, especially as the deprivations of winter were about to set in. I have called Martinmas Halloween's darker cousin. And I've said, think less candy, more blood. Now, I know that is eerie, and I promise I will explain. At the same time, I've also thought of Martinmas as a kind of very distant cousin of the American Thanksgiving. So you can see that there is paradox and contrast at the heart of this fascinating holy day, and we'll talk about all of it. I think it matters, though, for us today because it gives us an opportunity to reflect on and to feel more deeply a part of the vast cycling and circling of life itself. So Fáilte a Chairde, welcome, my friends. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad to be here with you. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Kate, and I'm a professor of Irish language and folklore, and I love to share Irish traditions and stories with you because I really feel that they help us live more joyfully and creatively. So let's think about Saint Martin. Saint Martin was the son of a Roman soldier. According to the lore, he grew up somewhere around what is today Hungary, and he was a soldier as a young man. And the most important thing about him, I think the thing that the Irish love about him so much, is that he converted to Christianity because he felt so deeply called to do so. The best love story about Saint Martin is this. When he was a young soldier stationed in Gaul, and that's in the west of France, he was walking along the road one evening and he saw a poor man shivering in a ditch, and it was a bitterly cold winter night. He drew his sword. Now, I imagine that everyone listening to this story would think, is he about to dispatch this poor shivering peasant? But instead of harming the peasant, he took off his own cloak, and with one fell swoop, he sliced it in half and gave half to the peasant and retained the other half to keep himself warm. And according to lore, that night Saint Martin had a dream that Jesus Christ came to him and said, "You have clothed me with this cloak." And that was the beginning of really a new life for Martin. So I've spoken many times on this channel that I believe the most valuable and central Irish tenet of belief is be a warm-hearted human being among human beings. And here is Martin doing that. So this central story about Martin is really about sharing and sacrifice and service, generosity, warmth, humanity, and hope. So you can see why he is beloved. Now, not only that, but he went on to become a bishop. He went on to become a patron saint of soldiers, but also of children. And I will say, I think really the Irish are a nation that have loved children, and a friend to the poor, and an inspiration about our proper relationship with people who have less than we do. So that's the most important of the stories, and that to me is all about giving. Now, the other part of this, the contrast or the paradox, is the central custom associated with Martinmas, and either done on the evening of or the day of or sometimes before, is the spilling of blood, the slaughter or the bleeding of a farm animal or bird. Now, that is a fascinating thing, and many people said actually that you could spill the blood for Martinmas beforehand but never after. That's part of the custom. Now, what does that actually look like? For families that had enough, they could actually slaughter an animal and I'll explain about the blood. For families that didn't, they would simply bleed an animal and retain the blood. What did they do with the blood? Well, a couple of different things. Some sources say that they sort of put a little bit of it in every corner of the house. Others tell us that they sort of smeared some of it on the doors and windows. And many sources say that they smeared a little bit of it, sort of anointing the foreheads of everyone in the family. Now, that's a lot, I know, and it's so different, really, from anything maybe we've ever spoken about before. I believe there's a rich philosophy and important set of ideas at the heart of this, and I'll explain. But first, let's just talk about the practical reasons why this custom fit into the Irish agricultural year. For one thing, it's sort of the heart of winter, where the mouth of winter, we could say. We're moving into this time, and it might have been practical for families to cull the herd. It would have cost them something to keep the herd and all of their farm animals alive over the winter to feed them. And so sacrificing one of them at this time might have been quite a practical and helpful action. The other thing that I think is important to know is that in the traditional Irish diet, people didn't eat meat regularly throughout the year. Most of the meat that was consumed by Irish people of the 19th century and earlier was consumed over the winter. And you can imagine how important that was to sort of buoy people up at a time of deprivation and cold and a kind of stress on them. So all of those things would make it the right time, really, to take care of this important culling of the herd, caring. Now, if a family didn't have animals to spare, a lot of times they would bleed an animal, and that blood was an important part of their nutrition, especially in the form of puddings. And those puddings, again, would really shore up the health and vitality of the people in the family. So as well as having the blood to honor Saint Martin, they would have the blood to shore up their own health. Now, there are many stories about people who had nothing to sacrifice and went to great lengths to find something that they could sacrifice in honor of Saint Martin. And I won't go into those stories because they might actually shock you even more. People doing all kinds of things to find something to sacrifice and being rewarded by the saint himself. Now, also, I think it's important to say one important story tells us that this custom was begun by St. Peter. And you can imagine that that would have sort of helped to bring this custom under the wing of Christianity. And I just want to make it really clear that the lines are not sharply drawn. And I don't want us ever to look at people of the past and say they did the right thing, they did the wrong thing, my job as a scholar of folklore is to look and understand and to seek the meaning for the people who performed these customs or told these stories. And so let's look at it in that regard. Now, there are a lot of, I think, heart reasons is what soul reasons, why this custom was performed. And I think that they are important for us today. I think one of the most important reasons, really, is a way of acknowledging the sacrifices of animals. All of us, in some form, depend on other lives to support our lives. And for the Irish, this was very, very true. Even if you had a herd of dairy cows, of milk cows, you depended on the lives and the sacrifices of animals. So I think this is a moment where we acknowledge we have received a sacrifice from other beings. We are supported by life, and there is a cost. And I see this as a very brave, clear-eyed, courageous acknowledgement that other beings sacrifice much for us. Now, let's think about the relationship between Martin's sacrifice, Martin's gift, and this sacrifice of blood. I see this as a great cycle of giving and receiving, of sacrificing and being the beneficiary of tremendous sacrifice by other beings. Now, for us today, what can this mean? None of us, I gather, is going to spill any blood for Martin, and that's the way it was put, spilling blood for Martin. We're none of us going to do this, but I do have a few suggestions. I think we can certainly emulate Martin and share something with someone. Make a sacrifice of some kind to help support another being in its life, her or his or its life. I think also acknowledging, looking around ourselves and acknowledging the web of support that sustains us is crucial and joy-giving, actually. It's sobering and joy-giving at the same time. Do you see there's the dark and light mixed together, realizing how much has been given to us? And I feel that it's an honor to decide that we too will be givers. We will participate fully in this cycle. We will receive joyfully and with gratitude, and we will give. And so I think this is a great time, of course, and in this month of Thanksgiving as well, and in this month also that, you know, on All Souls Day, on the 2nd of November, we honor the souls of our beloved dead, of those who've come before us. All of this is kind of, if you can see, I wore this brooch, of course, thinking about the themes of Martinmas, that the light and the dark, that the giving and receiving, that life and death are swirling, ever turning, ever cycling and circling, intermingling, interwoven forever. That's how it is. So this is a time of quite a vast theme, quite weighty matters. And the truth is, not one of us is exempt from these matters. So I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the sacrifices in your world that bring you the deepest feelings of gratitude? Things that have been given you, things that you see around you. Just let's take a look at those things together in the comments and really relish them, really let ourselves feel them. I've often thought that without gratitude, you really do not have what you think you have. Gratitude is the having of it. Gratitude is the acknowledging of it. And this is a very, we'll say, just a bone deep kind of gratitude of acknowledging what's been given us, the sacrifices that have been made so that we can live. So thank you so much, my friends, for taking this in. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate anything that you share. Please also like the video. It really does. It helps me and encourages me more than you know. Every like really helps me. And if you haven't, please subscribe. It's free to join this channel. You're part of us. We love to have you. Costs you nothing. And it's wonderful to be connected with you. So I want to wish you every blessing at Martinmas. Let us revel in and honor these beautiful gifts we have been given. I'll see you next week, my friends.